الخير أقبل شهر رمضان، شمروا بدر ضاف فيه الأحسان. خلي لعطائك بين البشر عنوان، تلقى سعادة وتشعر طعم الإيمان.
زرعة طالة تنتظر من البشر مدح وشكر، الخير دايم له أثر.
مهما تعارضنا الصعب، مهما عظم فينا المصاب، علشاننا يبقى الجواب.
اللي مضى من وقتنا ما ينتقص من عزمنا، بالعكس راح يزيدنا قوة وعزم، قوة وعزم. اللي مضى من وقتنا ما ينتقص من عزمنا، بالعكس راح يزيدنا قوة وعزم، قوة وعزم.
الحمد لله على كل حال،
الحمد لله على كل حال.
أوكيو، طاقة بلا حدود.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Dear brothers and sisters, dear colleagues of OQ around the world in 17 countries, I would like to say assalamu alaikum to all of you. Some of you probably will be a good morning, some of you is good evening, and maybe those who are in Far East, I might say good night, after you listen to us, of course. Welcome to this, our first OQ webinar, Ramadan webinar, which is a continuation of the last year, but this year we have a slogan that Bil Khair Na'lu. And I hope today, inshallah, you will enjoy our session. I have two of very significant guests here, very magnificent guests, and very unique guests also. I'm really, myself today, I'm very, very anxious to learn a lot from them. And I'm looking forward to have a fun day and fun 1 hour with them to the end of this session, inshallah. So having said that, I would like to welcome two of our guests today, Sheikh Hatim Al-Abdussalam and Brother Oliver, who are both of my fan, and I really, appreciate their media activities, da'was, and a lot of things. So with that, I feel I won't give them what they deserve if I'm trying to introduce them. And for that, probably I will leave it to them to introduce themselves to you. Okay, so maybe we'll start first with Brother Oliver. If you can please give us a short introduction of yourself.
Inshallah. Firstly, Sheikh, I don't think I deserve to be called magnificent and
You are
a great guest. So, Jazakallah khair. So, obviously, it's a pleasure for me to be here with you guys, with OQ today on the program. And so, just a brief about me. I'm Oliver Allen, originally from the UK, from Wales. And I've been in Oman now for 20 years. This is my 20th year in Oman.
MashaAllah.
Yeah, the years have passed very quickly. And I converted to Islam about 8 years ago.
MashaAllah.
And, with social media, you mentioned, Sheikh, about, you thanked me and Sheikh Hatem for what we do. Sheikh Hatem, mashallah, he does a lot. I don't do much, but I try. I try.
Ya Allah, mashallah. Barakallah feek, Oliver, and I hope we will all enjoy today of having you here, inshallah, together.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. And thank you to OQ for inviting us today here to be together. It's very difficult for a person to introduce himself, but I would say that my name is Hatim Al-Abdussalam, and I am a volunteer at the Islamic Information Center at the Grand Mosque.
MashaAllah.
And I'm also working for Al-Istiqama TV.
MashaAllah. Barakallah. May Allah bless you all, inshallah, and our brothers and sisters everywhere during this holy month of Ramadan.
Ameen.
And probably we'll start with our subject today, which is sustainable lifestyle. And maybe we start with Brother Oliver. If you hear the word sustainable lifestyle, What does that make to you?
To me, sustainable lifestyle means, living within our means. Whether that be, for example, in the way we eat, the way we spend, just in general, living, as I say, within our means. And I think in Islam, that's something which is very important. It's something that's emphasized. The smallest things, like saving water when we do wudu, ablution, for example. The same goes, obviously, as I said, for eating. We try to not overeat. We eat within our means, and again, as I said, this is something which our religion pushes. And I think maybe now, during this holy month, people keep these things in mind, but at the same time, we're used to eating a lot of food and going overboard, even sometimes outside of the holy month of Ramadan.
Yeah.
But that's generally speaking, that's my understanding, if you like, of the idea of living sustainably, or being sustainable.
I really like the word you said, Oliver, living within the means you have.
Mm-hmm.
You shouldn't probably stretch yourself in spending and other things, whether it's in money, in food,
Yes.
whatever, sleep. Maybe Sheikh Hatim can elaborate with us what Ramadan teaches us in these things.
Yes, I will go back to the word sustainability, which means something that will continue or something that will last within the resources that you have. And because we are Muslims, our reference is always our faith, our religion, the glorious Quran and the teachings of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. And if we look at the lifestyle of a Muslim, it is designed by the Creator to be sustainable, because you are entrusted with this body and you're entrusted with the period that you have on earth, and you have to manage within the period that you have, that you utilize the resources that you have. And then when the time comes for you to depart, you give back the custody that was entrusted to you the same way you were given. When you have maintained it, you have looked after it. And this is not only for the body, it's also for your intellect, it's also for your social aspect, your relationships with others. Everything has to be sustained. Just imagine, Sheikh Musallam and Brother Oliver, if I have a relationship with you for 10 years, and then suddenly I say something rude to you, suddenly there's no more sustainability, that relationship disappears. So maintaining sustainability in this relationship is important. And to us as Muslims, it's part of our faith. So there is no room for you to tolerate or to make a mistake in terms of how you present yourself and how you conduct yourself. Of course, nobody's perfect. We all make mistakes, but we keep on trying.
Exactly, and that's probably the point many people would ask. They will say, I do want to have a sustainable lifestyle that is good, that is humble, that is accepted by community and my Lord, but I don't have the guts to do it. I'm probably lazy. I would like to sleep a lot. I like to eat a lot. I don't like to do exercise, although I love those people who do exercise, would like to be like them.
Yes.
But there's nothing pushing me to get there. So what are the things that can really drive us to go there and implement those little things that really enrich our life? Maybe Brother Oliver can give us something.
Of course, Sheikh, it takes faith first and foremost, especially when sometimes it's easier. Sometimes it's easier with regard to some things, not to be sustainable. It's easier to, I don't know, not worry, not think too much about eating small quantities of food. We'll just go all out. It's easier. Or it could be, with regard to, as I mentioned earlier, like saving water. It's easier. So the thing which drives us, I think, is faith. Because again, this goes back to our faith. Our faith encourages us or teaches us that we have to live in this way. So that's a big part of it. In other ways, maybe it isn't necessarily easier to to live in a non-sustainable fashion. With regard to some things, I mean, logically it makes sense to live within your means and not to spend huge amounts of money on things you don't need. But unfortunately, a lot of us are, we can say, influenced. Influenced by the media, by the way people live in general. So we fail to live sustainably. So faith is a big part of it, and I think you can say faith really encompasses everything here, because it does all in both cases. It does really go back to faith, because that's what is what's right.
Okay, so maybe Sheikh Hatim, the peer pressure, because for instance, you find sometimes some of our daughters or whatever ladies, they see someone have a Louis Vuitton bag, Chanel, and they won't go through their within their meaning. They want to be the same. So trying to adapt to the higher lifestyle than what you can really afford to. Does that mean that you are not selecting the sustainable lifestyle that fits for you?
I think it's important in the beginning to state that Islam is not against living a comfortable life. Islam promotes living a comfortable life. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran that you should talk about the bounties that Allah has given you. Yeah. So how do you talk about the bounties of Allah if you can't use them and you can't utilize them? But the thing is, everything has a balance. If the balance or the scale of the balance is, one side is more than the other, then everything else doesn't fall into place. So as a Muslim, you can live your life, you can enjoy your life, but always be moderate in whatever you do. There is a statement, it was referred to Sayyidina Umar ibn al-Khattab, but I don't know how far it is true, but it says, أَوَ كُلَّمَا اشْتَهَيْتَ اشْتَرَيْتَ. Every time you desire something, you buy it. So if we take this concept into our life, that, okay, when I see something nice, I want to buy, I ask myself one question: do I want it or do I need it? Those are two different things. Needs are things necessary for you to survive. Wants are things that will make you happy. Yeah, these are the luxurious things, like the latest iPhone, the car, the big house, the fancy clothes. These are things that make you happy. But if you don't get them, it doesn't mean you're going to starve and you're going to have a miserable life.
Maybe Sheikh Hatim, we might touch base on the Surah Al-Duha. Some of the mashayikh said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when he was talking to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, وَلَسَوْفَ يُعْطِيكَ رَبُّكَ فَتَرْضَى فَتَسْعَدْ.
Yes.
It's a satisfaction that you get for what you have, and believe that is enough for you, and that makes you really happy, rather than just be happy. Some happiness can be very short-lived. So
there is a prophetic tradition of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. He says, if a person is upon a river of gold, he would ask another one, and he will not be satisfied until a lump of sand is filled his mouth. It means when he dies. And that is natural for a human being to want more and more and not to be satisfied. But satisfaction in what you have only comes through faith, because faith, it trains you, it molds you to control your desires. There is a conversation that happened between Allah and the angels mentioned in the Quran, and it's almost the only conversation mentioned there. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells the angels, إِنِّي جَاعِلٌ فِي الْأَرْضِ خَلِيفَةً, I have appointed a custodian on earth. Now, if you look at this title that Allah gave us, being a custodian, it means we are responsible, literally responsible of everything that is on planet Earth. So if we can't even take care of our own affairs, how can we take care of this planet? And that's why you see in today's world, there is destruction. There is no more resources. People in the African continent not having fresh water to drink. You see problems with the ozone layer, the environment, you name it. All sorts of problems are facing us because we have lost that scale, that balance that we're supposed to. Let me give you an example. You have in the Far East every year water festival, where people in the streets, they play with drinking water, they slash everyone else. You have in Europe the tomato festival, where people run in the street and play with tomato while people are starving. You have in the United States where milk is dumped into the ocean to make the prices go up, to make a higher demand. All of these things are wicked. They are not natural, they are not balanced, and they don't serve the purpose of having a sustainable life.
While we are told probably that الإسراف ولو على نهر جاري.
نعم.
Even
لا
if it is
تسرف
a
ولو
flowing
كنت على نهر
yeah.
جاري.
نعم. Maybe Brother Oliver, continuing with that, we as a human beings, we have milestones in our lives.
Yeah.
Some milestones that very vivid, we cannot forget them. We can't remember the day we were born, but definitely we remember probably the day we were first in school or in the university, first time we got married, first child. I think there is something unique to you. You were hearing about Islam before you yourself embraced Islam. You were hearing about Ramadan, you were hearing about all of these things, praying 5 times a day. How was your, how did you think about it at that time before really coming back to Islam? And now, how do you find it now? That's the milestone that changed.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up here in Oman and in the region. So growing up, I always had a somewhat of an understanding. We can say maybe a basic understanding of the religion in terms of maybe the pillars of the religion. Fasting. I knew about fasting in the holy month of Ramadan and prayer and these type of things. Obviously, my knowledge was limited somewhat. And I do remember though wanting to try and fast because most of my friends in school are Muslim.
Okay.
So I wanted to try and fast, and 2 or 3 years in a row I tried to fast the first day for like 2 hours or 3 hours.
How old were you at that time?
I was probably about 14,
Okay.
15, 16. So I tried, and 2 hours, 3 hours passed, and I got thirsty. So
I'll let you know why I asked you that question.
Uh-huh.
Please continue.
So yeah, as I say, I knew about Islam, and there were some, maybe you can say, preconceptions I had about the religion which were wrong, and I discovered later on after converting that, for example, the things which Sheikh Hatem spoke about just now, the importance or the emphasis that Islam places on, for example, taking care of the environment,
Yes.
taking care of the planet, and so on and so forth. Obviously, all of these issues are big issues in the West and across the world. Global warming, protecting the environment, and so on and so forth. So when I but before reverting, when I was researching about Islam in more depth, I was pleasantly surprised to come across this. That actually Islam isn't some backward religion that goes against science and goes against this and that. I was very happy to, and very pleasantly surprised, as I say, to discover, on the contrary, that they go hand in hand, and Islam places a very, very huge importance on
And in
these
Surah
points.
Rahman, it's clearly said, وَلَا تُخْسِرُ الْمِيزَانِ. We are the one who really disturb the balance in the earth,
Yes.
and even in the heavens. We are the one who disturb the balance. But Allah خَلَقَ كُلِّ شَيْءٍ بِمِيزَانٍ.
Yes.
And that's why probably in OQ now we are endeavor in investing a lot in the new renewable energies and sustainable energies, with the solar system, the wind power, the hydrogen. So we're doing a lot to really adapt to that vision, inshallah, for the future and future generation, inshallah. So why I asked you the age, because I remember, Hatem, even us who were born with the Muslim parents, although they did not force us to start fasting early in the early ages, but there are things that were intimidating you to fast, because when you break the fast, there are people who sit together to break the fast, and if you're not fasting, you are eating in a separate place. So for me to be, to be giving the VIP treatment of, oh, mashallah, it's fasting. I remember starting fasting around 10 years ago, but I used to go in the toilet and drink water sometimes, just to make sure that I am giving that. So, Sheikh Hat, probably, how do we start with children in terms of fasting? When should we start encouraging them or not push them?
Now you're asking the difficult question. Well, when it comes to kids, raising kids is an art by itself. And it's also experimental, because when you get married, you get your first child, you are experimenting on how to raise that child. And then the second one, the third one becomes, you follow a system. And each child is not the same. They're all different. So as we know that children are not required to fast, it's not an obligation on them until they reach the age of puberty. But for them, you can't say that when you reach the age of puberty, 14 or 15, suddenly now you start fasting. Any change you want to do, whether it is in an organization or in yourself, it has to go through gradual steps. And for kids, it starts from the age of 7. So you start with, first of all, kids, they don't listen to what you say, they see what you do. So when they see you fasting, that intrigues the question, what are you doing? Why aren't you having lunch with us?
Yeah.
Then you start this conversation with your kids. Then at the age of 8, you said you start, offering them. Why don't you try? Just for 2 hours. Skip breakfast and have lunch. So you start introducing them to the system. And then they start doing half days and then full day. And then you start giving them incentives. If you fast 3 days, I give you 10 riyals. So they get excited. And then you start telling them about their cousins who are fasting 15 days. So they want to be competitive. And so on until they reach the level where they don't want to be left out. They don't want to miss the buffet.
Exactly.
Yeah, they want to be part of the system.
Yeah.
So everything is gradually. You don't have to force them. Even it's against the religion of Islam to force the children to fast.
Yes.
All the scholars say that you shouldn't force them because it's not an obligation on them, but you encourage them in a good way, in a nice way. And as I said, you might have a son who has a very high appetite and someone who is okay with fasting.
True.
So you need to be, moderate in the way you treat your children.
And now, recently we start hearing about these diets that encourages people to fast. The 16-8 or 18-6.
The intermittent fasting.
And there's new one now is OMAD, which I also tried. It's not Oman, it's OMAD. It's 1 meal a day, and people, do it.
So you can eat a whole camel. And that one meal.
Exactly, that's 1 meal. It's really something. Maybe Brother Oliver, when you started fasting, how hard was it?
That's a very interesting question, because as I mentioned, I tried fasting before, but I don't consider it. 2 hours, 3 hours doesn't count. But when I many years later, when I started researching about Islam in more depth, 3-4 years into this I guess you can say study of Islam or research of Islam, I decided that I was still not a Muslim, but I decided I really wanted to try and fast.
Yeah.
I had a friend who suggested. They said to me, because just to give you a bit of context, at this point I kind of started trying to read about Islam and learn more about Islam, not with the intention of converting or reverting, I should say, simply with the intention of being able to answer people's questions about Islam. Because I obviously, as I said, I was raised here in Oman. I went back to the UK to study in university. So when I was there, everyone used to ask me about Islam and some controversial topics. They like the controversial topics. So I always wanted to try and I always would speak up for Islam and Muslims, especially when people asked me about these topics. And this was obviously without me having much, much background on the religion. So here I decided to research about the religion more. So anyway, going forward, maybe 3-4 years, I reached a point where I really loved Islam. I just learned so much about Islam. I'd learned things that I didn't know at all. I learned things that, I'd had preconceptions which turned out to be the opposite of what the case was. So anyway, I reached a point where I really wanted even to convert. But there was something missing. And a close friend of mine said to me, that they asked me, why don't you convert? So I said, there's something still missing. So he said to me, try and fast in Ramadan. This was 2014, probably about 3 or 4 days before the holy month of Ramadan. So I said, okay, I'll try. And he didn't tell me why. He didn't give me any reason. He just said, try and fast. I want you to do this. So I said, okay, I'll do that. And I was scared because I'd had those previous experiences, and it was many years later, but I was still worried. The idea of not being able to eat and drink. I like to eat a lot. To be honest,
Everybody likes to eat.
All of us do.
Yeah.
So I was really more worried about the aspect of not being able to drink water because it was the summer. It was July, I believe. Anyway, so I tried on my first day, and I remember something. I woke up because I wasn't sure about the prayer times, but I just wanted to fast, from sunrise to sunset. So I woke up and I was confused about the prayer because I thought that Al-Fajr prayer would be at exactly sunrise,
Yes.
but it's not. It's before.
It's before.
So that threw me off. But anyway, I started fasting, and the day surprisingly passed very, very smoothly.
Wow.
Yeah, and I think maybe towards the last couple of hours I felt a bit thirsty, but I was okay. And the funny thing is, I always remember this. I'd heard before that Muslims always break their fasts with very light things, sambusa, leban, water, very light things. And I never really understood why. Because to me, the concept of breaking a fast, you've not been eating for the whole day, so when you eat, you want to eat.
A lot.
So I prepared myself lots of food, biryani, and tea and coffee and water and leban, all in one, and some sweets. And as soon as I heard the adhan for Maghrib, I ate everything
Oh my.
in like 3 bites. And then after about half an hour, I started to understand the reason.
You got the message.
I got the message. I spent the next, maybe until Fajr the next day, lying down on my bed, stuck.
True.
So as I said, the first day went nicely and smoothly. The first few days passed very smoothly. And subhanAllah, the first 2 weeks of Ramadan that month, I fasted, and I still wasn't a Muslim.
Subhanallah.
But after 2 weeks of the experience of fasting, I reverted. Something changed inside me, and something like in a spiritual sense, and that was that. So that fasting for
So
me is the
you
key.
really converted to Islam in the middle of Ramadan.
Yeah,
MashaAllah.
2014.
I just want to compliment what Oliver said. The idea of fasting brings you back to fitra, natural inclination. So that's why naturally, even here in Oman now and around the world, during the month of Ramadan, more people revert to Islam because they are brought back to their natural state as a human being, fitra,
Subhanallah.
where your body consumes only what it needs. Your spirit is filled because of the feeling of the hunger, and also it's a group ritual where everybody does it. It's easier when you practice together.
True.
And then also you are in control, first time in your life. You are in control of your body. You are in control of your desires. You are in control of your thoughts. And also morally and ethically, you are at your peak level of morality during the month of Ramadan. And people think that, okay, I am ready to change in Ramadan. But actually, Ramadan is the way where you should be the same way throughout the year. So like Ramadan is just charging your battery, but before Ramadan and after Ramadan, you should be the same way as if you are in Ramadan.
Well, you
And that's
touched point.
why, sorry, let me continue. That's why people who are used to practicing faith and rituals, let's say fasting every Monday and Thursday, fasting 3 days a month, and also praying, continuously reciting Quran, when the month of Ramadan comes, it becomes natural,
Easy.
nothing new. But the people who are not practicing, when the first day of Ramadan comes, they have a
Very
headache,
tired.
they miss the coffee, they miss the
True.
cigarette, they are
Yes.
having a difficult adjustment. So Ramadan is a school to tell you that this is how you're supposed to be as a Muslim throughout the year.
So that's exactly was going to be my second point, Sheikh Hatim, is that in Ramadan, as you correctly said, many people enter that school ready, and they try their best to change their lifestyle. Yeah, but we do not sustain it after that. There is something just on the first day of Eid, the amount of food we put in our bodies is probably equivalent to those which we left for the last 30 days.
Yes.
Yeah. So what is your advice? How do you see people after Ramadan continuing with what, doing the exercises, sport, gathering with the family, visiting family with, of course, COVID precautions, eating less, and, all of these good manners, good things that people do spiritually and, and exercising, and how can we really sustain them after Ramadan?
Sheikh Musallam, eating on the day of Eid is an act of worship. So it is forbidden to fast on the day of Eid. Why? Allah wants you to be happy, wants you to enjoy the meal, but again, moderately and not excessively. Kulu washrabu wala tusrifu. Eat and drink and don't be extravagant. Don't consume more than what you can. Every time you do an action, whether it's eating or enjoying or whatever, anything in excess will come and hit you back. If you overeat on the first day, I'm sure you're going to have cramps. You're going to have difficulty digesting. So bear in mind, before you do anything, remember that not your neighbor is going to suffer, you're going to suffer. It's your body. So if you are a responsible person, you should know that this is entrusted by Allah to me, and I should take care of it, and not the opposite. And also, faith is not like a uniform. I wear it only in a season and then I take it off. Because in Islam, when you say that you are a Muslim, it means you are obedient to Allah. There is no such a thing as 50% obedient. You're either obedient or not obedient. So when you choose that you want to carry the label of Islam, so you have to be obedient. So it means whether it is Ramadan or after Ramadan, you should be the same person, not double personalities. Yeah. So yes, the shackles of the devil are released on the first day of Eid, but you shouldn't join the party. You should, hold it.
Yeah. But maybe, Brother Oliver, if you can give us some, hints on the importance of planning your day, planning your life as a whole, on those things. Because as I started, many of us would really love to be there. I see people going to the gym. I wish I can go to the gym. I see people playing football, although I used to, but now I wish I could go and play with them, but I don't have a time. I'm busy. I'm in the office until 5, 4 o'clock, 6 o'clock. Going back, I hardly can see my kids and eat and sleep. And second day is the same routine again. So what is there really that can enforce people to have a good lifestyle, that you balance everything in your life, not just workaholic or eating or other things?
I think, Sheikh, to be the word you used, I believe, was you'd said a balanced life, or
Yes.
there's another word you used in the question which escapes me now. But for us to be productive, I suppose we can say, we do need to plan, and I suppose we're all guilty of this. You know, we have goals and things we want to do, whether be it playing football or going to the gym or reading X number of books a week or whatever it may be, spending time with the kids, obviously going to work. And we all, I think most of us have this problem, and we're not so great at planning things out and basically doing the things we want to do. And this comes back to planning. And when you think of it logically, we have 24 hours in a day. So if we break those down, we have 8 hours at work, more or less. It takes 8 hours of our day. We sleep for 8 hours. We have another 8 hours free. We can divide that: family time, reading, exercise, worship. And it sounds easy when I'm saying it now. And obviously when it comes to it, it can get it can be a bit more difficult. You know, we have our phones, Instagram, check the notifications on Instagram, chat, YouTube videos. I think we're all guilty of opening a video to watch something and then clicking the next video and the next video, and before you know it, 2 hours have passed and you're watching some completely random video. But we're all guilty of this. But I think the key to productivity is planning and sticking to the plan. And if you know that you have issues with these things, you get distracted by your phone or social media, whatever it may be, go to lengths to make sure you don't get distracted. You know, I know someone who he designed his library in his house below ground, and on purpose, so that there's no connection there, so he can't use his phone. So sometimes it requires this type of thinking and this type of planning ahead. It's tough. Yeah. Of course, it can be tough.
Can you be in a place without connection, Sheikh?
Yes, you can if you want to. There is a system that is called PD.
Mm-hmm.
PD stands for priority and discipline. In anything you do in your life, you have to prioritize. Is this important, or it can wait? So once you have the system of prioritizing everything that you do in a day, then you'll be okay. So once you have that categorization, the next step is to discipline, to force yourself to follow the system. Because if you don't force yourself, yes, you know this is important, but you're still not doing it. And I think there's a misconception where we want to put all our lives in one pot. So my life has to be a carbon copy of Oliver's life. Oliver's life has to be a carbon copy of your life. No. If you go to the gym, it's not necessarily that I have to go to the gym. I can walk to the furthest masjid. I will gain the same physical fitness, the same as the person who's going to the gym. So not necessarily because I want to be fit, I have to go to the gym or play football. There are other means, even in the house. I know people who don't have nannies in the house for a year and two. They wash the dishes, they iron, they mop. All of this is physical fitness. So at the end of the day, you want to achieve a goal. What is the goal? You want your blood circulation to move, and you want to be fit. Whether it is in the gym, whether it is walking in the masjid, whether it is mopping your kitchen, it doesn't make a difference. As long as it is within your priority list, within the time span that you have, then you're good to go.
So probably, Brother Oliver, if what you said, the person who advised you to fast when you were still not decided, I see it also, the friends. The Rasul said, if I correctly quote, المرء على دين خليله فلينظر أحدكم من يخالل. You know, you are in the deen of your friends, your close friends. So see whom are you really taking as a friend. So you took those guys as a friend and you reached to that. In our lifestyle, do you see the same, that probably I will be the same as Sheikh Hatim if I'm staying a lot with him, or I will be like, whoever the big fans of sports, whatever, if I'm with those guys who love sports, I'll be like them. And where do you see the peer pressure there?
I think it's true that we do, in general, get easily, you could say, influenced or swayed, you know. And I do think people should try to, you know, in choosing their friends and whatnot, they should try to choose people who, I suppose it's the same concept, Sheikh. When you want to choose friends from a religious perspective who will help you in your religion, but also you want to choose friends who will help you accomplish those other things in your life. That's only going to help you, you know, if you have an aim to get fit. You know, we're talking about fitness. I have an aim to get fit, but I have some issues motivating myself. By befriending people who have the same mentality, maybe who are ahead of me and you know, are fit and go to the gym and whatnot, that's only going to help me. It's the same for anything. If someone wants to, you know, if they have a specific goal they want to accomplish, or you could say like a target, by aligning themselves with people of a similar mindset, that's only going to help them. Obviously, it's not everything,
Yeah.
but it will help them.
So it's similar like the law of attraction, and the where people, you know, and that's why it is very dangerous when sometimes you have, even within the family, two different family, one with a good wealth and the others, and these kids are trying to imitate theirs, to live in the same standard, while their probably folks do not have same means to. So that kind of pressure, I don't know, Sheikh Hatim, how can you really tell the families or that you don't necessarily have to be like your cousin?
Yes.
You know, they are living in different life standard. We are living in different life standards. How can you really take that message? How can you pass that message to?
First, let me comment about friendship, which is there's two prophetic traditions that are very important. The first one says that if you follow someone who is into the perfume business, automatically you will smell good, even if you don't put on the perfume. And if you're with someone who is a blacksmith, for example, is working with smoke and fire, when you stand next to him, you're always his companion, you'll smell like smoke. So naturally, you will be influenced. You know the concept of influencers now we have on social media, but actually that was there for thousands of years. As humans, we're built of emotions, and emotions dictate to you who you're attracted to. So you'll always be influenced by people. So you have to be very important. Whom do you get close to?
Okay.
The second thing is the prophetic tradition where the Prophet ﷺ says, Al-mu'minu mir'atu akhi. A believer is a mirror of his brother. You want a friend, a companion who has no problem to stop you when he sees something wrong in you. You want a friend who will tell you the truth about your shortfalls. You want a friend who will always remind you, like a mirror. When you go to work, before leaving your house, you look yourself in the mirror. Is my turban right? Is my dishdasha clean? You're doing a checklist. So you want the friend to do the same thing as a checklist to you. You don't want to be doing something wrong and your friend thinks that it's okay, he's free to do whatever he wants. That's not right. Now, when it comes to families and kids and comparing with one another, you have to build the base for your family. Yeah. كلكم راع وكلكم مسؤول عن رعيته. All of you are shepherds and all of you are responsible for their flocks. You have to make it very clear to your kids that these are the standards that we live in. So many times my kids ask me, I don't allow them to go and sleep over to another family. And they go for lunch and come back. So when they go there, they say, that family, they eat lunch and while they're watching TV. Why can't we do the same thing? This question always is posed. Why can't we do the same thing? And I asked them a simple question. Where do you live? Do you live there or do you live here? I say, no, Baba, we live here. I said, okay, if you're living here, you have to obey the principles and the rules that this place was established on. So if you want to remain within this establishment, every establishment has rules, has principles. And once you are independent, you have your own family, you will have
You
your own
decide
rules.
what you want.
You want to have lunch in front of the TV, you want to have lunch in the garden, it's up to you.
Yeah.
But because you are under this establishment, you will follow these rules that are here. So from the beginning, they know now the boundaries, that we are not a carbon copy of that family. We have our own unique principles and systems that we have to adhere to. And when the parents themselves follow, the kids, they don't have a problem to follow. But if you tell your kids, you can't have lunch in front of the TV, and you, the father, having lunch in front of the TV, it becomes double standards. And then you start having rebellious kids who will always question the authority. And then it becomes a problem.
Exactly. Yeah. And Brother Oliver, have you ever had similar situations where before Islam and after Islam you saw a lot of changes, or there were hard changes to make?
This particular example, which the Sheikh mentioned, growing up, it was the same for us in our house. My dad was very, not strict, but this was the rule about no eating in front of the TV. So I remembered something hearing that. I think it's certainly true that, you know, not only in the Muslim world, just in the world in general, we have an issue now where people, whether it's human nature, I don't know, but people do tend to want to copy each other. People always look, it is human nature. People look to their neighbor and see what he has, and they want more of that. Their friends, they look at the social media, people they see on social media, and so on and so forth. And we talked at the beginning a lot about sustainability. It's very problematic. We have people taking huge loans to buy cars they don't need. This particular issue strikes me a lot. Even unfortunately here in Oman we see it a lot.
A lot of
People taking loans to buy things they don't need, be it cars. Maybe you can argue with the houses. It's a different. They fall into a different category, but there's still an element of needing to borrow money to buy things that we don't really need, just so that I can be the same as so and so. You know, my neighbor next door or whoever. And it's interesting, even now, I don't think we have this here in Oman, but in some countries, there's now become a tradition of even people borrowing money to buy clothes. You know, you go to a shop and buy clothes, and they let you pay in I forget the word in English, installments, which is I mean, it does worry me, to be honest. And not only that, but even we were talking about the idea of carbon copy. Now it's become so easy for people to, like the way, for example, the fashion industry is, these new designs come out, and very quickly they are taken by retail. I guess you could, like high street. What are they called? High street brands and stuff. So now you find in all these high street brands the same designs, and people go and buy these designs, which come out not once a year, every season. I think every 4 months. Yeah. And you're walking around the street, you see people wearing the same clothes, the same top. You see, like, just on one walk down the street, you see 10 people wearing the same exact T-shirt or the same jacket or stuff like that, which I find, I mean, I think it's a reflection of, unfortunately, society now.
That's exactly what one guy said. The brands were made for the celebrities, but the poor believed in them. Yeah, they wanted to steal from celebrities, but the poor, like, you know, the people, they are the one who went into adapting them. So we're going back again to what you correctly said in the beginning, that everybody should live within his means. And thank you very much, Brother Oliver. And probably now we are almost going to wrap up our session of today, Sustainable Life. Really would like to thank you again. It was a real honor to have both of you. I really enjoyed it. And before we leave, maybe I should ask each of you if maybe Sheikh Hatim will start to give, what is the last advice would you like to give to our audience everywhere?
My last advice to the audience, that we have a temporary span of time on this earth, make sure that you are the best version of yourself. Remember when your parents got married and you were conceived, millions of your brothers and sisters did not make it to this world, but you are unique. You came out to this world, so you are here for a reason. Make sure you fulfill that reason and you remain unique. Don't be like those who Oliver mentioned. They all dress up the same way. That destroys the uniqueness that Allah gave you. Everyone is different. So make sure you have values, you stick to your values, you have faith. In a world now, people who are fighting against faith, stick to your faith, because nothing will protect you in this world except your faith. People can take away everything from you, but there are two things they cannot take away from you, which is your knowledge and your faith. So stick to them.
Thank you very
And
much.
finally, may Allah bless you all. in this month.
Jazakallah khair. In 1 minute, brother Oliver.
1 minute.
In 1 minute, because the guys are after me now.
Inshallah, I'll keep it quick. Firstly, thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure, obviously, to be on. I just advise everybody to make the most of this holy month. Sometimes we get distracted, especially now. We've had 2 years of lockdown without gatherings and whatnot. Now we have gatherings and so on and so forth. Alhamdulillah. So my advice is don't get distracted. Don't get distracted. Enjoy yourself. Enjoy yourself at iftar, but focus on the getting close to Allah.
MashaAllah. Thank you very much. And I believe both of you are unique. Sheikh,
Jazakallah.
Jazakumullah khair. We were really blessed today and honored to have you. Brothers and sisters, again, I hope we all enjoyed today with our guest and the information we received. Thank you very much. And inshallah, we will see you soon in the next events of the similar episodes, inshallah. And until then, have a blessed month of Ramadan. Stay put, stay safe, and see you again, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam.
يا باغي الخير أقبل شهر رمضان، شمر بدر ضاف فيه الأحسان، خلي لعطائك بين البشر عنوان، تلقى سعادة وتشعر طعم الإيمان.
ساعة طالت تنتظر من البشر مدح وشكر، الخير دايم له أثر.
مهما تعارضنا الصعب، مهما عظم فينا المصاب، عالسننا يبقى الجواب.
اللي مضى من وقتنا ما ينتقص من عزمنا، بالعكس راح يزيدنا قوة وعزم. اللي مضى من وقتنا ما ينتقص من عزمنا، بالعكس راح يزيدنا قوة وعزم.
الحمد لله عكل حال،
الحمد لله عكل حال.
أوكيو طاقة.